Hey! Welcome everyone to another AZ Ray video. Today we're gonna do an archaeological topic. And don't worry, I didn't forget my hat. So for today, we're going to talk about Mesoamerican boxing heritage. The reason why I want to go into this topic is because I feel like it's a topic that deserves more light, more shine. It's something that modern archaeologists are trying to re-examine and re-verify their understandings of archaeology. The main sites that I'm going to focus on are Dainzu, Lubaantun, San Lorenzo, and Guerrero. The reason why it's called Mesoamerica or Mesoamerican is essentially the region that's in the center part of Mexico and Central America. Meso is a way of saying middle, so it's that middle section of rich culture that we're going to focus on. And about these four aforementioned sites, Dainzu, Lubaantun, San Lorenzo, and Guerrero, you're going to notice they have three things in common. All the sites have adornment, some kind of worship of a rain god. They have some kind of hand-to-hand equipment, some kind of hand-to-hand combat tool, and they have some kind of head adornment, something to either protect themselves or just project fear in the enemy. We really don't know. We're still uncovering more and more, right? So let's start to the first site in the aforementioned list. Let's get into Dainzu. Heather Ower also did some crucial findings in Mesoamerican boxing. She made a close connection with the Dainzu late pre-classic Zapotec sculptures and connected it with classic Mayans, but also with the contemporary highlands of Guerrero. She argues that the Dainzu portrayals with fighting with stone balls also have similar ceremonies and ritual rainmaking and mountain worship, just like in modern day Guerrero. And I will focus more on Guerrero towards the end, and you'll see this connection. Dainzu is Zapotec in origin, and Cosijo is the rain god that they refer to. Cosijo is the rain god. It actually means lightning in Zapotec, and their rain god and storm god, it has all those similar features as clouds, and you're going to start noticing a theme as I kind of get into other sites. There's always a reference to like a rain god, and it also has like jaguar feline features, and they have a lot of figurines, little clay figures. They also have a lot of depictions and iconography that show Mesoamerican boxers, and we see that there are these beautiful rituals that took place. What we normally thought were just rubber ball games actually show us that there was other things that were taking place once you analyze the different things that they had and the different reference points. And we have different stone-like tools. It's just kind of a small example to give you guys a feel that were used in all these different sites. And to go into another site, San Lorenzo is referenced to an olmec god, arguably the most crucial. And if you want me to explain that, say to the end of the video. I think the olmec connection is arguably the most important connection than any of these other connections that I'm going to mention. And then San Lorenzo in Monument 10 had a huge jaguar fiend-like olmec god, also holding knuckle dusters, which are these intense looking brass knuckles made of stone, which shows the connection to a rain god as well as connections to jaguar and rain. And these connections will be brought up once again in the end in the modern day Guerrero depiction. And they also have some kind of hand-to-hand combat weapon. You see different stone variants that are called manoplas, or sometimes you'll see conch shells. Yeah, exactly. Just imagine a sea conch and just using it for combat. Crazy, right? Hardcore stuff. And then we have another site like Lubaantun, which is the Maya connection, which has Chalk, which is another rain god. And Chalk is probably arguably the coolest of the rain gods. Just kidding. Why am I making this joke? Because he has a lightning axe. Oh yeah, take that, Zeus. Axe. All right. Lubaantun was a site where ceramic figures were discovered, and these ceramic figures were initially believed to be Mesoamerican ball players. But after reinterpretation and comparisons, we see that they share a lot of similar features to Mesoamerican boxers. And we see that they also have the similar fist protections. They have like some kind of like stone-like gloves. Some of the gloves are done by conch shells, and we also see their faces covered with helmets similar to medieval style Europe with knight-like helmets. We also see that it was very popular in this region. We don't know if these events were done for combat or for warfare, but they were definitely prevalent. So the reason why I'm mentioning these sites and the reason why I'm focusing on these specific ones is because arguably the most research has been done in these sites. There's other sites that have these depictions of Mesoamerican boxers, but they require a little more research, a little bit more for me to give them in depth. But I definitely want to mention them because it's important. It shows that this is definitely a cultural phenomenon that was spreading throughout this various region in the Americas, or Abya Yala as the natives prefer that term. We have like helmeted boxers, and you see one just like depicted with one boxer coming from the top and laying some kind of like ground and pound from the top, defeating their opponent. We see a similar figurine and depiction all the way south as well in Peten. And then we also see another depiction with another olmec god in Veracruz, which is also associated with another olmec god. We're starting to see this olmec pattern again, right? And I'll get to that in the end. And so what this starts forming is heritage and ritual. And the reason why I'm calling this video Mesoamerican Boxing Heritage is because that heritage word is very important. Because heritage has the ability to live longer than any artifact, right? Because a heritage, a ritual, these different traditions are almost like ice, right? And if you keep them cool, or if you preserve them, if you remember them, if you value them, they'll maintain themselves. And if you don't, they'll melt, right? And another thing that's important with heritage is that it's how community was formed. Durkheim talks about how the social glue and makeup of societies through rituals, and Mesoamerican boxing was a form that these rituals and communities were formed with people. And this also talks about what a lot of other researchers and archaeologists talk about, which is Inomata and Coben. They talk a lot about how there's a performative aspect of it, and how the spectators, just as much as the fighters, play a role into forming this heritage and to forming this identity, because everyone's playing a role, right? As these two combatants are that are fighting for glory, for rights, right? Another point that's very important is the fact that even some important Mayan figures had depictions as Mesoamerican boxers, which shows how much reverence and love and adoration that these figures had. We have rulers such as Yuknun Chan. They had these thunderstones, and they had all these depictions as being these like hardcore warrior-like figures, which only give more emphasis to these points. Most of the research that you're hearing me quote is associated with Karl Taube and Marc Zender. There's a lot of other researchers that are starting to come out more and more about it. And I think, like I initially mentioned earlier, it's why these things need emphasis, right? And then that brings us to the rich culture that's still alive today. And that brings us to the last site that I want to talk about, which is Guerrero. Guerrero still practices Mesoamerican boxing today. Pretty crazy, right? In the Aclatan and Zitala regions in Guerrero, they do these very fun combat events with large crowds that are up to like 3,000 people. And we see people wearing jaguar masks or different types of masks, luchador masks, and they're wearing boxing gloves, and they're going back and forth. And then they're fighting. It's become this big festival of events that happen. It's usually during Semana Santa, Holy Week, and Catholic culture. So it's become a fusion where they've been able to celebrate these things. In the past, we don't really know the origins of this because this was banned, it's forbidden for like a long time. It was seen as some kind of like uh, very unpatriotic event that was happening. But they started to bring these events back in the 1910s and the 1920s. So we don't know the exact origins, but most of the people of this area in Guerrero have Aztec origins. So they're more than likely worshiping and commemorating a rain god, just like the other ones that we mentioned. But in this case, it'd be Tlaloc. He's the cool god with the googly eyes. Yeah, he has googly eyes. It looks like he's wearing like some school scuba diving gear or something, but maybe to block from all the rain because it's a rain god. It's just, yeah, it sounds dorky, but it's an easy way to depict him. Anytime you're in by those ruins and you see that, yeah, they're all over the place. The events in Guerrero are a beautiful, powerful form of ritual rainmaking. And what we have to understand about them is that it's done to bring down the rain. Since blood is seen as a life force, rain also plays a heavy role into that. And so that brings us to the connection within Jaguar, thunder, and lightning. Most of the masked combatants, as previously mentioned, they have jaguar gloves, or they have like some kind of jaguar masks on, and the combat itself is supposed to represent thunder and lightning. Whether it's boxing gloves or in other times, they also use whips, ball rope kind of whip kind devices that are used to replicate thunder and lightning. And offerings are also done in Mount Pacho, close by, as a way to give offerings to the rain gods. So there's lots of people that will walk up to Mount Pacho and they will give their offerings, and it'll be a culmination. And all this is done for the rain. So it's throughout the entire ceremony, although all these boxing matches are happening, the people are always reverencing and looking up to the rain. Place I forgot to mention that also has potential Mesoamerican boxing features is in Teotihuacan, a famous area that's near the capital of Mexico. So this brings us to our final point. Why do I think the olmec connection is very important? The reason I think the olmec connection is very important is because the olmec people arguably are the mother mythology, culture, religion of this Mesoamerican region. And so we start seeing these patterns on how, even though they coexisted with some other regions, we can see the influence that they trickle down. So I think those olmec connections, those correlations can show the significance of Mesoamerican boxing regions. And it's not hard to see that although not everyone practices the direct ritual, boxing, of course, is still honored in Mexico today and other Latin American regions like, Central America, like Honduras, Salvador, Guatemala, and what we mentioned. Thank you so much for watching an AZ Ray video. This video was a little different, hitting in different topics. Like I said, I want to expand the portfolio, go on to different things. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And the next video, we got some cool stuff going on too. We're going to be talking about the history of pets. So stay tuned for that. All right, guys, you have an awesome one. Don't forget your hat.